All right, you're good to go.
There he is. The chat is open, so if you guys have any questions, please put there any questions we have there, and those will be managed as we work through. So today we want to focus on collaborative partnerships and what that looks like and what that means in the school setting. I know that it can sometimes be very challenging when you're looking at building those partnerships, especially when you're new into a building or new into a district as well. So our outcomes today is to develop an understanding of the positive impact on student outcomes by creating positive partnerships, as well as identifying ways to help grow as a professional through those partnerships. So what is a partnership? A partnership is an arrangement where parties agree to cooperate to advance their mutual interests. And that's really important when we think about that agreeing and we talk about the co-planning and we talk about the co-teaching aspect of it. So there has to be a relationship built where that agreement is put into place. And then we must develop a mutual understanding of the needs and the work to be done. So what is not a partnership? It's one person doing all the work. So if you are working in a setting where you would be an inclusion teacher or going into that classroom, it shouldn't just be the gen ed doing the work, nor should it just be you doing the work as the intervention specialist. And that's true when we're talking about all of our kids. So not just looking at the gen ed students, but also our students with disabilities as well. And it's also not working for your personal interest instead of in the best interest of the student. So I think, how many do we have in our group right now, Steve?
About 26 or 27.
Okay, so that's a very manageable group. So if somebody would maybe like to unmute and talk to us a little bit, what have been your experiences with developing partnerships and relationships this year? I know we talked about this a little bit at the very first Academy session. Where have you seen some progress so far this year?
I'll go ahead and jump in. Can everyone hear me?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm teaching in my first year at the high school at Licking Heights. The other MD teacher and I have worked very closely. She's been absolutely fantastic. So it's been very helpful for me to be able to go to her and be able to bounce ideas off of her. And then also, I call it cherry picking, but I go to her and I will just observe when I can and watch what she does. And she's been doing this, I think, 8 or 9 years. So she has some really good experience, great ideas, knows a lot of things that work and don't work. And I think the biggest thing is I'm not afraid to ask a question. I'm not afraid to go and ask even a gen ed. And I have found, at least here, everyone has been very helpful in anything that I needed. Even so, I teach math and science. So even my gen ed math and science teachers have given me some tools to help with my kids.
Good, thank you.
There's also 2 comments in the chat box. Chelsea says, I have seen progress in becoming included with the principal I work with. And then J.DeGroot.1 says, some families are easier to reach than others.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge too when we think about some of those with families.
Back to what Eric said too. It's really an invaluable experience if you get that opportunity to go view other classrooms. Even if you pick up one little thing that'll help you with student success or parent success or planning or whatever it may be, Obviously time is limited, but if you are able to make those arrangements, or you know, your plan period aligns with their instructional time, things like that, and you can do that just to observe and soak things in, that's really invaluable. It's often one thing that we hear teachers saying they wish they had more time to do. So obviously we know time is of the essence, but yeah. There's another comment. Sometimes the quick touch base with hello in the morning or the hallway goes a long way. So yes, that's kind of like that informal communication and relationship building. That's crucial. Philippi 1 says, a success is having a student who was hard to reach, making them feel comfortable speaking or working in the same space as teachers and other students, now working and feeling confident in their ability to complete work. So yeah, sometimes those things take a while to flourish, but in building those relationships, you'll definitely see little successes become, you know, big successes over time.
Yeah, absolutely. What have been some of the challenges some of you have faced so far this year in building some of these partnerships? And you can either put them in the chat, unmute, either way. We're a still a relatively small group. There's about 30 of us now. See Chelsea's post or her comment down in the chat. And that, you know, it's a challenge when you have ESC classrooms sometimes coming into a traditional building. And so things get a little messy. In my previous position as a director of special ed, I had to work with that. And so you have staff that come in that aren't employed by the district, yet they have to follow district pieces. And sometimes it really does kind of muddy the water a little bit. If there aren't strong collaborative partnerships, truthfully, starting at the top down, starting with administration to make sure everyone feels included in those.
Chelsea says there's a divide between the ESC and the school her classroom is in. That's always a challenging one when there's other agencies that are either maintaining oversight, renting space, whatever that may be. Sarah says teachers not knowing how to handle challenging behaviors and not knowing how to include students with behavior needs. Julia says acknowledging that students have outside factors that have an impact on their performance at school. Others acknowledging, I'm sorry. Engagement, lack of consistent parental help at home with students with behavioral issues. And then Sarah agrees with the Chelsea says, my students are on grade level, but have strong behavior and social emotional needs. So trying to get students included in general education classes has been difficult. Emily says, communication on gen ed teachers' part when they change their plans the day of, and I'm not prepared to help those who I have on my caseload.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those kind of challenges, especially when we talk about students with more significant behavior needs and trying to get the general education teacher to see the value. And I wouldn't even necessarily just limit it to the general education teacher. Sometimes we see that with an administrator as well. The value of getting those kids in around their typical peers so they can learn those learned behaviors from their peers versus a teacher trying to tell them what to do. And that's where, even when you go back to preschool, where that preschool model is so highly effective, that have the peer models in a class with a group of students with disabilities, and they use the peer models to model to those preschool age students. And sometimes I think we get kind of lost as the kids get a little bit older on remembering that they can learn a lot from their peers.
I think back to when I was like, the comment about like the lack of consistency at home. I think back like early on in teaching.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately something we can't control. We can just control how, and I like where somebody just popped in the chat. using text messaging to reach out to the parents.
Fair to think that, because you are, you know, doing everything you feel like in your power at school. Unfortunately, that outside influence is so much bigger. And as I think you experience the classroom more and see it more often, you realize that it's really kind of out of your control. And coming to the point where you realize this is what's in my control and that is out of my control. It does take, you know, 2 or 3 years to really kind of get a hold of that. But yeah, that outside influence plays such a big part. All the things that kids, you know, come to school with, whether it's trauma or they didn't sleep or their heat's turned off, so they were freezing all night or didn't have breakfast, things like that. It's very hard to kind of relinquish that you don't have control over those things, but they have such a great impact on the day to day. Jay DeGroot says using text messaging to reach out to parents for appropriate times to call.
Yeah, I think that is also a really good time when we think about those families who are hard to reach. And it's not necessarily because they're not wanting to engage. They might be at a job that they truly are not able to take a phone call during the day because they aren't allowed to have them, whatever their job might be. So thank you all for participating. I see as well there were a couple that have also added in like things like Class Dojo, things of that nature also help. So who can I establish partnerships with? So your colleagues in the building, and I think it's important to think beyond just the other teachers. Can you build relationships with your custodians? Can you build relationships with the office staff, social workers, school psychologists, administrators? All of those are very powerful people to help you build those partnerships with to help support student needs. We need to be able to build those partnerships with our parents, especially for students age 14 and older, really building those partnerships with opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities, talking to your county boards of disabilities, and then also partnering with your local career tech schools. Those are all great people to help build partnerships that also will support our students as we move forward. And I just jumped 2 screens ahead. I'm not sure why this is continuing to do this on me. Here we go. Got it. When you think about those partnerships in school, you should all be serving on a teacher-based team of some sort. Hopefully you are. I know some school districts that I have worked with personally this year are a little resistant about putting intervention specialists on the general teacher-based teams. They kind of think, oh, the intervention specialist should probably be in a separate room or a separate TBT, but really try to find ways to integrate yourself into those teacher-based teams and also those grade level meetings. Also continuing to build partnerships in those inclusion classrooms with those teachers that you're going to be co-teaching with. And then depending where your district or your school is in their MTSS process, getting involved in those student problem solving meetings because you have a wealth of knowledge. You are trained in interventions that could go and really help prevent anyone from maybe even having to go down the path of being evaluated for special education. So when we think about co-teaching, the Council for Exceptional Children defines this as a collaborative approach to instruction in which 2 teachers, typically a general education teacher and a special education teacher, work together to plan and then implement instruction for a class that includes students with disabilities. Notice it doesn't say that the intervention specialist gets to come in with the teacher, nor does it say that the general ed gets to go in with the intervention specialist. It really is that co-teaching and co-planning to get to that point. So we're going to watch here a short video about co-teaching and the different elements of that. So just kind of watch for any key takeaways, and we'll talk about those at the end.
Hey, Kim, I don't know if there's supposed to be volume, but we're not hearing anything.
Okay, let me see what I need to do there because I can hear it. Let me see if this will work. Excuse all my tabs and windows. Can you hear that now?
I don't hear anything, but it's the video's paused.
Okay, hold on a second. Can you hear this one?
No.
All right, do you know what I'm doing to not have the sound? Because I can hear it, but I've seen it. Let me stop.
I do not.
Anybody more technologically savvy than me? Let me go back here. You still can't hear that?
No.
Let me see.
Myself.
No, you don't want that. Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
Somebody mentioned, do you have headphones plugged in?
That could be, let me take my AirPods. Look, see, I knew somebody would be smarter than me. I had my AirPods in because my children were on a delay and they were leaving as we were starting this. Their school bus was there.
Let's see if this helps.
Instead of sending students
Can you hear
to
it now?
separate classrooms.
There you go. Yep.
Thanks for whoever just taught me that.
Co-teaching is a practice of two teachers working together with groups of learners. Sharing the planning, organization, delivering and assessment of instruction, as well as the physical space. Often, special education teachers pair together with general education teachers to increase learning opportunities for a diverse group of learners, including those who have disabilities. In a co-teaching relationship, educators are equally responsible and accountable for the instruction of all learners in their classroom, for establishing the social emotional culture of the class, and managing the physical environment. Co-teaching isn't just something nice that educators can do to provide extra help to students. Special education is defined as the delivery of specially designed instruction, which means adapting the content, methodology, or delivery of instruction to address the unique needs of students with disabilities and ensure access to the general curriculum. It has been said before that co-teaching is like a marriage between professionals, but it is more like a business partnership. To create an effective partnership, co-teachers should understand that they have different but complementary knowledge and skills. Their aim should be to use their strengths and draw on them to create teaching and learning that is significantly richer than either could provide alone. Let's look at some co-teaching models. Station teaching is a model where each teacher leads a group of students, with some stations requiring independent work and some offering small group work. The students rotate from group to group so that each teacher eventually meets with all students. Parallel teaching is when co-teachers divide the class in half and teach the same material simultaneously to each group of learners. It allows each teacher to instruct a smaller number of learners and allows for more learner participation and individualized support. Alternative teaching is particularly helpful when some students have learning needs that are different from the rest of the class. With alternative teaching, the teachers divide the whole class into two groups, one larger and one smaller, based on the identified learning needs of the smaller group. One teacher leads instruction in the larger group, while the other teacher focuses instruction on the needs presented by the other group. Team teaching is a co-teaching structure in which both teachers collaborate to simultaneously teach, monitor, and coach learning for the whole class. This strategy is versatile and requires careful planning and a strong relationship between teachers. The more teachers work together and plan together, the more cohesive the team teaching lesson will be. It allows both teachers to bring a unique flair to the lesson, models collaboration, and can be powerful and engaging learner interest. One Teach, One Assist is probably the most used but the least effective co-teaching model. This structure involves one teacher leading the lesson, while the other teacher provides support or assistance to individual learners. If this model is used, it's important teacher roles vary over time so that it doesn't appear that one teacher is the other teacher's assistant. If both teachers share responsibility and accountability for teaching and learning, then they will both plan and share these roles equitably. No matter what co-teaching model is used, it takes careful collaboration and purpose to use them successfully. And each structure has its own benefits and drawbacks based on the goals and activities of the lesson. Co-teachers need regularly scheduled, uninterrupted planning time to make this work. By planning lessons in advance, co-teaching can be a valuable way to provide the specially designed instruction needed to meet the learning needs of all class members. Have questions? Visit mcie.org for more information on co-teaching and inclusive education.
So have any of you, what structure of these co-teaching models have you tried this year? So you can either use the raise your hand feature if you want on Zoom, or you can just unmute yourself, put something in the chat. What have you tried this year? Whether it was effective or not, what are some of the strategies you've tried?
Julia says she's tried the parallel teaching. It didn't work out too well. And thank you for being vulnerable there and admitting to that, Julia. Yeah, oftentimes it sounds great in theory, but in practice. Modified lesson in my room, teachers aren't as cohesive as I have experienced in the past. So I guess that would be similar to the alternative teaching. John says one teach, one assist is the default strategy when teachers don't buy into co-teaching strategies. That's a great point, John. A lot of the times when in our position now, in my previous position, we would go in classrooms that we were told were co-teaching, and the one teach, one assist was often what people's idea of co-teaching was. Susie W says, try to switch off and off. So I try to switch off and offer to teach some of the lesson. My co-teacher says she is the ELA expert and I should not be actively teaching. So yes, that is always a barrier as well. And this is no like jab at middle school or high school teachers, but they're often very, I guess, committed to their teaching subject, their content area, and sometimes letting other people in that space.
I see, Decca, you have your hand. Hopefully I pronounced that correct. Your
Is
hand raised if you wanted to.
Yes,
unmute.
you did. You did. It's just multiple of us in this room, but I've had a good experience. I'm the 5th grade DECA Middle Intervention Specialist, and I've had actually really good experiences with co-teaching. And I've also found that sometimes I've led a lesson just because to show and demonstrate to the teacher how you can teach to multiple levels at one time and differentiate the lessons based upon my training and what I'm doing. So I've actually had a good experience where I lead the lesson. And so with my way of communicating, I even figure out that the gen ed students also lean into the way that I'm explaining things and how I scaffold for my special ed students in that classroom. So usually when I establish a co-teaching dynamic, I usually try to talk about why I'm in here and what this would look like and how it could be easier to utilize my strengths in the classroom paired with that gen ed teacher.
That sounds like a fantastic experience where they're allowing you to use you as that model. And I think that also validates your position with the students, that you're not just there, you're not an assistant, you're a teacher as well. It validates who you are and the skill set you can bring in there. And we all know not everybody can learn from the same person in the same way. We need to be able to present different ways.
And I think the best thing is sometimes letting the interventionists teach is so that it's not an embarrassing thing for the students that we serve, that I'm only usually speaking to a particular group, and that normally I'm speaking to the whole group, and then I just pay really close attention to mine. So I've tried to explain that to my teachers, like if they see me working with everybody, now this can backfire where gen ed students like the way I teach because I teach differently, and then they're trying to overtake my little small group. But I do try to expose all the children to different types of learning.
And I'm really glad to hear that you've got people willing to lean into that knowledge as well. I did see down in the chat that Susie, you said because you're in an ELA 10 and there is that end of course. And I hear where they're coming from, but also the other pieces too, especially with the shifts in Ohio and graduation requirements. Our students with disabilities have to pass at the same rate all of these end of course assessments as their non-disabled peers. And that's really a big shift. I'm sure if you work closely with any directors of special education, you're hearing that a lot when we're looking at those graduation rates, because we need all of our kids to meet competency. And so being able to differentiate some of those for our students with our disabilities to get them to be able to understand that content so that they can also be successful and reach those high school competency scores is critical. I see as well here, Sarah said in the past, it was helpful for the intervention specialist to also help teach to provide a new insight to concepts and problem solving strategies that I may not thought of as a gen ed teacher. And I think that is very, very true. And that's just true even if you have 2 intervention specialists working together or 2 gen ed teachers. We all come at everything with a little bit different perspective. I even see that in our professional teams in our SST. We all think about things a little bit differently. And so when you can collaborate together and bring everybody's thoughts and their techniques together, we can make a lot more growth as an organization, impacting our students.
Sarah says in the past, it was helpful for the IS to also help teach to provide new insight to concepts, problem solving strategies that may not have thought of as the gen ed teacher. Emily says, I agree with Sarah. I love when my math gen ed teacher allows me to add in some of how I learned the material she is teaching. And then Sarah says, I find it more difficult though in 1st grade this year to assist with instruction like we did in 5th. The key is getting gen ed teachers to give up some control. Yes, very key point. It's that being able to relinquish some of that control, which is often you'll see increase the more
Does anyone else?
That's all in the chat box.
Okay, yeah, all right, thank you. And I think that idea of, I know we've talked about it, you know, kind of that marriage, but also that business partnership, right? For an effective business to work, you have to be able to give up some of that control and rely on your colleagues. So getting to that point, and that's not something you can establish usually in the first year in your profession. So here's just another kind of a fun video. Now that I have my AirPods out, hopefully you guys can hear it. So this is co-teaching or not. And I find this to be a good example or non-example of what often I have seen in schools. You all hear that okay this time?
Yes.
Hey guys, first day of class 101. I'm Miss General and this is my assistant.
She did. Ms. Co-teacher?
Oh, right. She's a teacher.
Oh, yes.
Wait, like I'm certified, like I went to college. Right. Miss Special is a teacher. Like she went to school to be a teacher.
No, she did.
Like I'm certified. Right. Like a special.
Okay, guys, if you're coming with me to take the test, we're gonna go next door. So if you'll just come with me. Question number 1. What are the colors of the rainbow? I know this. A, red. B, yellow. C, notice this is a long one. C, Roy G. Bibb, that includes red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, and violet. You know, C, that's a good answer. C, I guess. I think it's an educated guess. Or D. Let me say C for a minute.
Okay, guys, so today we're going to be working in groups, and as soon as the special gets here, we'll split up and we'll get started. Okay. All right, any minute now, the special is going to be here, and we'll be able to get started. Oh no, they're going crazy. Is she ever going to get here? Uh-oh, what if she thinks it's Saturday again?
Sorry I'm late. There's some really good cake in the teacher's lounge, so I had to get a piece.
Oh, great, Miss Special's here now, so we can get started.
So if you'll go ahead and turn to your books, and we're going to talk about the climates of the different biomes that we've been talking about. And so just make sure that you're open to this page right there. Okay, great. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. This is my student. I'm going to need you to not answer questions. This is my your kids. Remember, we put them up. We talked about this the other day. They're over there in this special corner. Yeah, I got this one.
All right, stop. Don't have a rate and I should kick it.
So I thought that one was just kind of a funny way, but the reality is though, we actually see this. I think I did see somebody asked, Sarah asked if we could get the links to these videos, and I will put those in that participant link that you got with the original email from Tina Forshee. So I'll put those in the folders here when we're finished today, just so you always have access to those instead of just being here in the chat. This is a quick one, I think, to kind of show our other colleagues as well on what would be effective or ineffective co-teaching without going into all of the other nitty-gritty pieces as well. And then it's really important just to remember, it does take time to build relationships. So we all go into our first few years of teaching thinking everything's going to be wonderful. And the reality is College does an okay job preparing us, but you can't be prepared for those individual students who walk in that bring in that different background knowledge or the personalities of those that you're working with as well. So when you talk about, we'll shift a little bit, partnerships with parents. Why are they so important? They're there to help you build trust. They allow for a better understanding of student needs. And it's a way to provide feedback both on your teaching as well as what the students are learning. If we don't have those relationships with our parents or those partnerships with our parents, there can be a huge disconnect between the school and home, which causes all kinds of issues for the students as well as the school. So how do you develop those partnerships? I cannot emphasize this piece enough right here. You have to make the phone call. Sending an email, solely relying on things like Class Dojo or Remind or whatever, when you get into that one-way communication instead of effective communication, effective two-way communication, that phone call. Make the phone calls, especially at the beginning of the year or starting as we're at the beginning of a second semester, starting those semesters, not because there's an issue, just make the call, build that relationship, build those relationships with the parents, let them see you truly want to be a partner in their child's education. And then communicate regularly and often. You have the required progress reports, but those only come out, 4 times a year if your district only does progress reports, like just the regular grade cards. Maybe 8 times a year if you do interim reports. I know some districts choose to do different for their intervention special or for their students with disabilities, their progress, but just making sure that you're communicating regularly and often. And I like back at the beginning where somebody said, I send that text to a parent to find out when does that time work. Don't wait just for parent-teacher conferences to have those times for communication. I know sometimes parents resist communicating back with you. But the more that you're willing to continue to provide information and be able to share with them, more likely you're going to bring them around eventually to where they'll want to communicate with you. So when we talk about partnerships with outside agencies, why are they important? They're going to be able to provide insight into the home. And here in a few moments, I have a couple guests that are joining us this morning that are going to talk about how collaborative partnerships have worked with their agencies into the school and how they can also help support the home, the school, and the family. They also provide access to additional resources, and every county has a board of DD. Every county in Ohio has a Family Children First Council as well that provide amazing resources to the school and connect the school and family and make it more of a wraparound for the families. And then they bring together a team to wrap around those needs of the students and family. So I know Kathleen is on here now. Kathleen, or is Hope on here as well, or is it just you with us right now?
Hope is here. I'm here.
Yep.
Okay, Steve was also admitting people, so I didn't see all of us. I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment. So with us today, we have Hope Smith and Kathleen Hayden. For those of you who don't know, I previously worked in Madison County. So they are both SSAs within Madison County and partner with all of our county schools to bring together resources. So ladies, if you don't mind unmuting and kind of talk about the power you have seen in the partnerships between the schools and these county agencies.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us on. We're super excited. And I think one of the main reasons why we're excited is because we have had such great collaboration, I guess I would say, with many ISs and overall school districts. Just a real quick kind of to backtrack a little bit, as an SSA, so a service coordinator, as we call, a lot of parents will call us a case manager, it's really all the same. Basically what we do is we assist families in making sure that they have the variety of services and supports and referrals that they need to support their family. The other thing that we do with the age group that I serve and Hope serves is that we can assist with them in the other parts of their child's life, which happens to be school, of course. And so that means we can attend IEP meetings, parent-teacher conferences with them, special team meetings, even helping fulfill IEP goals, and that kind of thing. And we do that because the parent invites us to. Our program is a free and voluntary program, and they get connected with us through the parent and or through a referral from you all. So a referral from you guys would be you guys saying to the family, hey, you know, if you're part of that process of getting a child, assisting in them getting, what I want to say, diagnosed, or if they are already, you know, having diagnosis or already having diagnoses, and you think they need some more support, you can have the families contact our program. And that's a whole nother conversation, but there's ways to obviously get connected with us. Then if they are eligible and are connected with us as SSAs, I deal with the younger kiddos and families, and Hope it has more of the like middle school and up. We, as a agency, I guess I would say, and a great example we've used before is the school, you know, ODE is kind of the co-conductor of the train with the parent right now. It's like you guys are leading the way with the family all the way up until 18 or 22, right? We're riding along beside them. They can reach out to us for support as needed for many things, whether it be, again, assistance with things that only are on the home front, you know, food and clothing, like as simple as that, or as big as that, I guess I would say, other needs like that, but also then, and then of course, like I said, other varieties of services and supports, but also assistance with just having support, working with you guys. And it doesn't always, sometimes it seems like, oh, they're bringing someone in because there's an issue that they have with staff, or it's not. It can be, and it has, but often it's just a parent walks in and there's a wonderful group of people, like, you know, got 8 or more, and then there's them. They walk in by themselves. So this is where, oh, I'm walking with a friend, and this person, you know, so they have someone to sit beside them and that kind of thing. And I hope and I say, we're, you know, another set of eyes and ears, and who can't help and who isn't helped by having another set of eyes and ears with you. So that kind of is the little bit of the background. But then when that train, let's use that train example again. When you guys end as co-conductors with the family and they still qualify for our program, we become the co-conductor with that train, with the family, and ride them out if need be till, you know, we're birth to death, you know, programming for those with disabilities. So we, you know, continue on. So having that early relationship and connection with them during their school years is really important. I'm going to stop talking just for a minute so Hope can jump in there, because we did talk a little bit before we got on, because we have so much we feel we can, we're excited about this because we do see such a benefit for the family when we have the collaboration between their real supported folks, support folks at school. The parents talk about the ISs, they talk about their teachers. They feel like they, most of the time, that oh, they're my kid's person at school. And so it's a positive thing when we can have that relationship, us representing kind of the family on the home front, so to speak, and then you guys representing on the school front. But anyways, Hope, do you have anything else to add?
How can I follow that? I don't know.
Oh.
I think a lot of things that we really enjoy working with the school, we can help kind of drive home, you know, a point. If there's a behavior at school, or if there's something going on at school, we can help reiterate that to the parent. So we're an extra set of eyes and ears for the IS as well, not just the parent, and just kind of being neutral when we need to be, and just kind of help bring the team together. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We many times, let me just give some examples. Hope has some great examples, and I do too. One in particular, we're teaming together with a child and their father, And we're working closely with this IS to where she's meeting one of the students' needs and their IEP goals by literally, we have a Zoom or Google Meet or whatever it is once a
quarter. Yeah.
Once a quarter, where we literally get on Google Meet and we with the child and the IS and us, and we talk about we just do a check-in, and that's meeting an IEP goal. And what's nice about that is that we have, in the meantime, we've kept into contact with dad, and where the IS is obviously focused on what she needs to focus on with this child. And that's just one great example. It's a short amount of time, 5 to 10 to 15 minutes at the most. But it's great because there's many things she has told us that what we're seeing in the classroom, and let's just example hygiene, she's a middle schooler, that's a big deal. So then we've been able to talk to dad and say, these are some of the things. And so we've been able to, again, drive that point home. And also, I guess another example would be when I've had ISs texting, or texting, but also emailing me separately of this is an issue we're seeing in the school, and we've tried to talk to parent about it. So these are kind of when there's kind of real issues, I guess I would say, that aren't so positive. We're not seeing the follow through with meds. How can you help us with that? And so then we've been able to jump in, trying to reach mom on a different level, or a different way, because again, we have a different responsibility. All the while, here's what's interesting and what I like about what Hope and I do, and we're pretty proud of the fact that we are advocating for family and child. We're advocators, but we also have been this voice to a family saying, you are with this school system, this school district, unless you move, you are with them for a long, many years. How can you best work with them? And how do you, it's like the more flies with honey than vinegar type of things. And some families have needed to hear that. And it's an emotional situation sometimes working with families, and them working with schools and coming to meetings and whatnot, especially if there are some touchy issues. But I feel like we've been this nice voice to say, they're saying that because they're working within the confines of a school district and school system. So we have to, it's just what it is. So how can we brainstorm around that? How can we team around that? And just them having this person who says, I hear you and I get it, but you got to hear what they say too. And not that you guys probably haven't said those same things, but they hear us in a different way, I think sometimes. And Hope, did you have any other examples? I guess the one that we talked about was the FCFC too. Or ODE.
OOD, yeah. So a lot of times we'll help bring in other team partners too, if the school and the families, want that and need that. So we can help make referrals to local FCFC and OOD. I have the transition age kids, so usually 14 and up, some youngers, but usually 14 and up. So I can help do those OOD referrals, and that's another great team member to bring in. We've had a really good and positive experience in Madison County working with OOD and our FCFC. So,
right. I guess Kim, is there anything else that you wanted us to touch base on? I hope that you have heard the fact that we are passionate about what we do, and the fact that it is such a positive for both entities. You guys are with these kids for a long amount of time, hours per day. And so are the parents, obviously, and everyone knows that. And us being able to, the bridge the gap is kind of I don't know that I feel like that's kind of strong. It doesn't really identify it, but the bottom line is it's such a positive. We've never had a negative experience in interacting with both family and IS and overall school team.
mm-hmm.
It's always been positive. It's always been a positive situation for child and parent. At least I think I can say that, and hope you would too.
Yeah. And just a reminder for the IS, you don't have to go at it alone. We're here. And we want to bring in partners so you don't feel like you're stuck on this island alone.
Oh yeah. And the brainstorming that we've had has been wonderful. And on both parts, like it's helped us think outside the box to bring in something that the school doesn't have access to and vice versa. It's helped, in one situation, it helped the school think outside the box, and now they're bringing in some mental health. One situation, now they're bringing in some mental health service that they hadn't thought of before because of this one student, as we were doing some teaming and brainstorming. So it just, anyways, so Kim.
Thank you, ladies, both. I really appreciate you being here. Do any of our participants have any questions for either Hope or Kathleen? And I know they're both from Madison County. Some of you are from Madison, some of you are from Franklin, some of you are from some of our other county agencies. I think it's important to know that there is their role in every county. So if you're in Madison County, you may get to interact with Hope or Kathleen. If you live outside of Madison County, you would not interact with them. We are hopeful to have OOD as a part of us, kind of this same program next year. I was in communication with them and they just didn't have availabilities today. And that's that opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities that I had mentioned previously. So does anybody have any questions either in the chat or want to unmute and ask these ladies?
Yeah, I see Sarah saying about you want to refer. Absolutely. So referral can happen if you, for Madison County in particular, you can go to the Madison County Board of DD website, and we have a kind of a referral page and intake form. And because we're free and voluntary, and it needs to be a parent. However, I say that with, you can assist the family in doing that. Then the family has to provide a variety of paperwork. It's not difficult. Currently in Madison County, our intake fella is Justin Hicks, and we're small. So, we've got a handful of people that that they have to talk to. So it's very easy. Franklin's much different, although there are key people in these roles as well. But yes, super simple. The other thing is you'll have our contacts. And if you are like, I know they said somebody, but you can always just reach out to us and we'll say, oh, here's who you need to contact. You can call us, you can, email us. I hope you want to refer to that one from Susie.
Yeah, so do you help at the high school level with supporting student-parent relationships for adulting skills? Yes, so we call it our version of an IEP. It's an ISP, individual service plan. And we can really use that to outline almost like an agreement between the parent and the child is how I do it. Johnny says twice a week he'll take out the trash, blah, blah, blah. And this is why it's important for him to do that. OOD also does a really good job. They have a pre-employment skills class where they can talk about, more than just employment, how to be an adult and why adulting is important. But yes, we do help a lot with that. What was that ISP? Individual service plan. It's like our version of an IEP where we kind of outline the student's strengths, some areas that they might need some help, and how we can address those areas of help. Like if they struggle with taking meds, well, can we put some technology in the home to help with that? But for older students, when would that be used? Same thing. We have them for kiddos all the way to adults. Outlining, what they do in the home, what supports they need to be successful in the home.
So county boards of developmental disabilities use the ISP, and if you have kids, of early intervention 0 to 3, they use what's called the IFSP, the Individualized Family Service Plan. Then they move, if they come into the DD world, then they use the ISP again, and they use that all the way from, again, almost like, age 3 to death, as long as they're in the program. And the ISP is used for it's their life plan, so to speak. It helps them track their progress. It helps them when they, and in particular, this becomes very important, when they are like school age, high school age, and let's say they have someone in the home or someone outside of the home, a provider, let's say, that comes in and maybe it's paid by part parent, part some funding we have, and they come in and they help them with, I don't even know, give me an example.
Well,
Hope.
one example just specifically that I have rather than a provider is OOD. We'll provide our ISP to the job coach so they can learn a little bit about the student. I've also had parents before, and the IS has liked this. When they go from middle school to high school, they'll bring their ISP and say, here's a little bit about my kid. I know we're going to have a lot of conversations about this, but here's some groundwork and I think it's nice for the parents too, because sometimes it's hard to repeat your story so many times. Did I miss this? Did I say this? So this is like a living, breathing document we can give to a teacher or a job coach just to kind of give some background information on the kid.
And this is not for severe cases. This is for any kiddo. And the ISP covers all life domains. So we're talking communication, getting out in the community, health and wellness, relationships,
Everything, yeah.
Who am I? Who am I? And they use it for whatever they use it for, that they want for. When they're little ones, it's real simple. You know, what does Johnny like to do? And then when they get older, it becomes more like, oh, Johnny's had the interest of cooking in the kitchen with me forever. Maybe Johnny wants to start looking at some job work in a kitchen somewhere, you know, and so we use it to build on their future as well. And it's binding, but not like an IEP is, until later when there's actual services such as OOD or such as a person coming in who's getting paid. And then that ISP becomes much more binding, I should say. And also there's going to be an Ohio ISP that is, so in other words, all ISPs in the state of Ohio will be in one format. That's brand new. So that's coming down the pike. So if a child moves from one county to another and they have an ISP, it will all look on the same, it'll be the same format. So that's just a tidbit that if you happen to have a child right now and you've ever seen their ISP, that'll look different in the next year or two. So, but it's the same information.
All right. That last question was for Steve and I, so
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
I will say real quick too, that we want to be available for anybody, and it doesn't have to be just within our county. Hope and I, please take our, Kim can share our emails and our extensions. Please do that. We very much are obviously advocates for families overall, and that means just any family from any county. So, and we do this all the time. We are in regional meetings, and so it's so important, we know, to be able to talk with someone and say, hey, I've got this situation. How can I link with someone in my county? And we've helped with that, even like, well, here's a number for your SSA or an SSA in your county and the DD system in your county. But really, truly, please utilize us. We are more than willing to take the time to talk with you guys. And those in Madison County, if you don't think your child's linked, the children in your classrooms are linked, and you think that they would qualify due to their developmental needs or what their diagnosis is on their IEP, or their diagnosis is and their IEP, feel free to talk to the family and say, hey, I know that we just met these people. They could just assist you with things if you want. And again, being free and voluntary, there's no pressure for them to do specifics. It is really up to them how much interaction they want from us. So.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies. And we have hit the end of our time. So I'm going to pop up this last screen here real quick for everybody. And I appreciate it. I know we got kind of to the end. I will put on in the folder, the participants folder, I'll do that as soon as we're done, the links to the videos that I shared earlier, as well as Kathleen and Hope's email addresses. And I'll just put that as a separate sheet in there, as well as where the handouts were for today's, just the PowerPoint presentation. So if you guys have any further questions, I know we're about a minute over now. We truly appreciate it. You can feel free to email myself, Erin, or Steve. There's all of our email addresses, the survey link. There's a QR code if you would prefer to just scan that, or it is in the email that we got, that you received to start. So once again, we really appreciate all of you taking the time out of your day. I know it's been crazy with all the weather. We do appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you all in February in person at the ESC of Central Ohio. So have a great day, everybody.
things. I put the YouTube link to our YouTube channel in there. And then just if there is an issue with weather on the day in question, just if you go to sst11.org, you'll see a message at the top if our office for some reason would happen to be closed. It's only happened once in my 40 years, and it was this week, so I don't anticipate it happening, but if for some reason it does. And we will also, if you have any suggestions, we have 2 hours booked out next time. We're really trying to do some networking, and also we have our communications office coming to talk about how to effectively use networking to kind of build your professional brand, but also like within the classroom, things you can do to help increase, things like that. So if you have any suggestions for next session, we do have a little bit of, flexible time that we can build in. If there's still follow-up questions or things people want to talk about, please make those suggestions either on the survey or email Kim, Aaron, or myself, and we will try to work those in. Other than that, thank you for being here today, and we will see you in just about a month.
Bye, everybody.